Alrighty, we've heard you. A lot of the laptops that we recommend are just too darn expensive. What happens if you're a student or someone who wants a great laptop but just doesn't want to spend a fortune? Well, we've gone out and got every major manufacturer's laptop that sells for around $800. We have painstakingly compared them together, and today we're going to count down the worst to the best. We'll be scoring them across 10 different categories so that you know where they excel and where they suck. Along the way, I'll be highlighting what you need to keep an eye out when shopping at this price point, because what you can get for $800, it is highly variable. It depends on what sales are currently running, and it also depends on what configuration you buy. You see, many of these laptops come with multiple different screen options, different processors, memory and storage. It is so easy to be confused and just get a subpar configuration. So we've tried to ensure that today, the laptops I cover have a good selection of processors and displays so you can see the difference. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get into it. Coming in at number 7 are HP's OmniBook X and 7 Flips. These do look nice and modern, particularly the blue OmniBook X with its more modern keyboard. The 7, it's essentially the same laptop but just with a different keyboard. Build quality, it isn't great. They are fairly rigid on the outside, but they do have some keyboard deck flex. The other issue with the OmniBooks are that their lids, they don't sit entirely flush, that's when they're closed. There is a gap around the side, which means that something could get in and scratch your screen. Switching over to portability, the OmniBooks are on the heavier end for a 14-inch laptop. Now, even though many of these laptops do come in a 14 and 16-inch screen size, I'm going to grade their weight based on the 14-inch ones. That's just to keep it manageable. Port selection is good, but they don't have a charging capable port on either side, so you may have to run a cable around the back if your outlet is on the other side. This can be annoying. Also, only one USB-C port has fast Thunderbolt 4 speeds. Keyboard is an interesting one. As I said, the X and 7 do have different keyboards. The 7's keyboard looks dated with its rounded keys, and when you press them, they drop below the keyboard deck. I find that annoying. Sierra, she didn't mind it as much. The X's keys, on the other hand, they don't do that. Both of us, though, we found the typing experience as a whole just felt mushy and low travel. The OmniBook's trackpad surface, it isn't the smoothest, and it does have a loud click. At this price point, the displays you're likely to get are pretty rough. Brightness is good, but colors are way off. When it comes to performance, you do have some good processor options. You can get up to an Intel Ultra 7 Lunar Lake processor. Those processors are power efficient, helping you with battery life. They also have excellent integrated GPUs, so light gaming is possible, and they do have acceptable CPU performance. If you want more CPU performance at the expense of graphics and perhaps a little battery life, you can get one of these laptops with an AMD processor, the Ryzen 7 and 5. Battery life was middling. Keep in mind, battery life will change depending on what components you get. For example, if you get a high resolution display, it will drain the battery faster. We did grade this section on our office productivity battery rundown test. We just felt it was a more realistic test than playing a downloaded movie on repeat until the laptop dies. Speakers are pretty bad. The sound was muffled and lacked clarity. Bass was its only saving grace, but not by much. The webcam was surprisingly good. Now, since we don't feel that many people are going to buy a laptop just for its speakers and webcam, we're going to group these two together in one category. That's so we don't overweight them. When it comes to other bells and whistles, the OmniBook X's do have touchscreens, they do convert into tablets with pen support, and they have facial recognition. This gives the OmniBook X and 7 Flips a total score of 29 out of 50. Number 6, the Dell Plus. We have both a 14 and a 16-inch variant. Its chassis, it's the worst of any of these laptops. There is a lot of flex on the keyboard deck. The darker blue color of our 16-inch, it does look nice, but the 14-inch's light blue color, just look at it, it looks really bland. For portability, it's one of the heaviest out there. For ports and connectivity, you get a good variety, but all charging capable ports are on the same side, and only one of them is fast Thunderbolt. Typing experience is a low point for the Dell Plus. Its keyboard, it feels mushy, and there is a lot of flex on the keyboard deck that just amplifies the mushiness. The trackpad, it's not great, and the surface, it isn't the smoothest with a loud click. The display on the Dell Plus, at least at this price point, it isn't great either. It does have its positives though. It is a high resolution panel that refreshes up to 90 Hz, so small text does look nice and crisp. It also appears to have a matte-like coating, which means you don't have to worry about reflections. Its downside though is that its colors just aren't accurate. It's also not the brightest at 360 nits. Performance is pretty solid for the Dell. You get Intel's Lunar Lake processor inside. As mentioned, these processors give you good single-core performance, good integrated graphics, and longer battery life. Battery life on the Dell Plus was really good. We were super surprised given its high-resolution display and smaller battery. Normally, these factors would work against it. We did set all the screen's brightness to the same 200 nits for this test, by the way, so the Dell's lower brightness, it wasn't a factor here. Speakers do have a good sound to them with consistent quality. The webcam though was pretty bad. The Dell Pluses do have plenty of bells and whistles. You can get one in both a traditional clamshell and a 2-in-1 model with touch and pen support. It also has facial recognition and a fingerprint reader. This brings Dell to a total score of 30 out of 50. Look, if we didn't round up the webcam and speakers category, it would have tied with HP. This highlights the point that a lot of these laptops' total scores ended up pretty close together. It's really going to come down to what's important to you. Obviously, change our scoring to suit your needs and even change the weighting of my categories. That way you'll get a laptop that you really like. Next, we have a tie for the number 4 and 5 spots. We'll start with Acer Swift Go 14 AI. We immediately need to subtract a point for having AI in the name. Seriously folks, who at these marketing departments actually thinks that naming their products AI is going to get us to buy more? We're not that stupid. Anyway, rant over, I won't remove a point, but onto the laptop itself. It is well built and feels very rigid, although not at the upper echelons of build quality. Looks-wise, it does look dated. In terms of portability, given the Swift Go's larger 14.5-inch display, its weight is really impressive. That being said, it is the chunkiest of these laptops, meaning it's quite thick. When it comes to the ports, both USB-C ports support Thunderbolt speeds. However, it doesn't have an HDMI port, and all charging-capable ports are on the left side. The keyboard, it feels nice and clicky, but a little low travel. When it comes to the trackpad, the Asus feels smooth and very accurate. Guys, it is straight up one of the best mechanical trackpads we've tested. Even if it has that stupid AI indicator that nobody asked for. Guys, it lights up when the NPU is in use, which most AI applications right now, they don't actually make use of. The Swift's display is the largest in our roundup at 14.5 inches, but it's a pretty mid panel. Its brightness is a little low at 369 nits, but just like the Dell's, that may be fine because it's a matte non-reflective panel. You just don't need as high a brightness to combat reflections. Funnily enough, the panel is a lot like the Dell's. It has similar brightness, fast refresh rate, high resolution, and just like that panel, it trips on color accuracy. Performance for the Acer is interesting. It's our first Qualcomm-powered laptop. If you think of the dimensions of a processor as its CPU performance, its integrated GPU performance, and its power efficiency, i.e. its battery life, the Qualcomm chip does very well on the CPU performance side as well as the power efficiency side. It has woeful integrated graphics though. The other issue, which is specific to Qualcomm, is that their chips use the ARM architecture. They run a different version of Windows. Some Windows applications don't work or just don't work very well. This is mainly an issue with games and specialized software. My DJ application, for example, it doesn't work. If you're sticking to basic Office applications, browsing the web, that sort of thing, you will be totally fine. Please don't let this scare you. If you do plan to do other things though, these processors may not be for you. When we switch to battery life, that's an area where these lower tier Qualcomm processors absolutely shine, they really do. That combined with this laptop's large battery sees it deliver stellar runtimes. Alright, when it comes to the speakers, they're subpar. They do work, but you won't get any joy from listening to music on them. Its webcam is woeful. The video quality, it isn't horrendous, but the mic, it just kept going in and out. Here's how the webcam looks and sounds on the Acer Swift Go. There seems to be something wrong with the audio. We did try this several times and we did ensure that Acer's gimmicky AI camera software was disabled. The issue, it still occurred. When it comes to other factors, there are good biometrics with both facial recognition and a fingerprint reader. This brings Acer to a total score of 33 out of 50. Tying with Acer at number 4 is the Asus Vivobook S14. Like many of these laptops, their product naming is completely confusing. The S level of the Vivobook stands for slim, at least I believe so, and it's their more premium model. ZenBooks are supposedly even more premium. We have several of them in, but we feel they're really close. Given that, no surprises, this laptop is very well built. It also looks stylish and understated. In terms of portability, it's the lightest laptop on our list that doesn't have a smaller display. Ports are decent, good selection, both USB-C ports are Thunderbolt 4 speeds, only nit is that all the charging capable ports are on the left side. Keyboard is decent, it has a whopping 1.7mm of key travel, which makes it feel quite luxurious to type on. However, compared to the best keyboards out there, the keys do require a little too much force and they do jiggle a tiny bit. The Vivobook's trackpad surface, it isn't entirely smooth and its click is loud. The Vivobook, like many laptops on this list, has multiple display options available. There's a high resolution and a low resolution panel. We're going to score off the low resolution one as that's the more affordable option. That panel exceeds 400 nits of brightness, which is important as it is a glossy display. High brightness, it does help combat reflections. It has great color accuracy, however, it doesn't have a high resolution nor a fast refresh rate, at least not at this price point. But this panel is OLED. OLED panels give you deeper blacks and far more contrast than IPS. Content just looks more vivid. Performance on the Vivobook, it can be exceptional. That's if you get the variant with a Ryzen 9 Zen 5 chip. Right now, those processors are the most powerful ones available at this price point, at least for a Windows laptop. In addition to stellar CPU performance, their integrated GPU is solid, a lot better than the ones in a Ryzen 5 or 7 chip. The Vivobook, it does come with other processor options like Intel's Lunar Lake. You do need to be careful what you choose. For example, when we look at better battery life, you can see that the Intel Lunar Lake Vivobook, it lasts a long time, but the Ryzen 9 version, it does not. So you have to choose wisely. Speakers are outright terrible, no bass, too much highs, webcam also really bad. The Vivobook gets one additional point for having facial recognition. But before we add up the Vivobook's total, I have an issue to deal with. I've double counted. You can't get fantastic performance and fantastic battery life. You either get one or the other, depending on the processor you get in it. So I'm going to subtract 1 point from the Vivobook. This means the Vivobook finishes at 33 points, the same as the Acer. Alright, we're now down to our top 3. Taking the bronze medal is the Surface Laptop 13. This one's build quality is very good, close to MacBook levels. It doesn't look quite as stylish though. In terms of portability, it's the smallest and lightest laptop on our list. Ports are rough though. It doesn't have any fast ports, no HDMI, but it does at least have a USB-A port. One little note though, Microsoft does seem to have addressed the issue with USB-C charging on this laptop. On the bigger and older Surface Laptop 7, that laptop gets very warm when charging via USB-C. It seems to be fixed here, which is good. Onto the keyboard though, it's a pretty good one. Microsoft makes some darn comfortable keyboards. This one feels a little mushier and not as satisfying to type on as the larger Surface Laptop 7. Also, the keys themselves, they're a little small. If you do have small hands though, maybe this won't bother you quite as much. The trackpad is another strong suit of the Surface laptops. This one is mechanical and not quite as accurate when you click as the more expensive Surface Laptop 7's haptic trackpad. Display is decent, it gets bright enough, but its color gamut isn't great. It only refreshes at 60Hz too, and its resolution is 1920 by 1280. Even on a 13-inch panel, that's 178 pixels per inch, which isn't that crisp. It puts it below our threshold of where text does start to look a little fuzzy for some people. When it comes to its processor, it uses another low-end Qualcomm chip. It has the same pros and cons as the one in the Swift Go. Great for casual use and office productivity, but I wouldn't recommend it for much more than that. Battery life is very strong on the Surface Laptop 13. We were really impressed, especially given its smaller battery. This is another example of how frugal the power draw of these lower-tier Qualcomm processors are. Speakers was another standout of the Surface Laptop 13. Good bass, depth and clarity. As for the webcam, it has a ridiculous amount of contrast. I would give it a bad score, but this laptop's mic, it's actually really good. Finally, 2 additional points because it does have a touchscreen and a fingerprint reader. Overall, nice little laptop with a total score of 34. With that said, coming in as our runner-up is Lenovo's Yoga 7 and 7i. These laptops feel very well built. That being said, our 14-inch model, it didn't sit flat on the desk. Normally we'd say this is an anomaly, but one viewer had this issue too. If it happens to you, obviously exchange it. Most of these are fine. In terms of looks, it really depends on which variant you get. Our light-colored model, it looks fantastic, but our grey model looks dull. When it comes to weight, the Yogas are on the heavier end for laptops at this price point. For ports, the Yogas give you a good selection. They're also the only laptop to offer charging-capable ports on either side, super convenient. Be careful though, the port speeds can vary a lot depending on the configuration you get. Some models do have fast USB-C ports, but they also have a really old HDMI port. Sierra covered this in detail in our full review, which I'll link down below. The Yoga's keyboard is excellent, extremely satisfying to type on. The Yoga's trackpad though, it's on the worser end. It has a lot of grip to it, so tracking just doesn't feel smooth. Its click is loud and it does lose a bit of accuracy, particularly in the left and right corners. However, it does still get the job done. At this price point, the best screen that we could find in these laptops was a 1920 by 1200 OLED panel with a 60Hz refresh rate. Performance is good on this laptop. You get a choice of an Intel or AMD processor. The Intel models are called the Yoga 7i's and the AMD models the Yoga 7's. Similar to the OmniBooks, go with AMD if you want the best CPU performance and Intel if you want the best integrated GPU performance and battery life. Talking of battery life, we only had the more powerful AMD Ryzen 7 version of the 14-inch in, so battery life was very average. I'd assume with the Intel version it will last a little longer. The speakers were middle of the pack, they just lacked bass. The 1440 webcam, also surprisingly average. The Yoga 7i has a touchscreen, 2-in-1 capabilities, facial recognition, and a fingerprint reader. That brings the Yoga to a total score of 36 out of 50. Alright, finally our winner. Surprising no one, it's the MacBook Air. I mean, come on, Apple lowered their prices this year and gave you more starting memory plus a fantastic processor. It feels super premium and it's the most stylish looking laptop on this list. For portability, the Air is very light, so another full marks. The Air's ports and connectivity, though, are woeful. Just 2 USB-C ports and a MagSafe charging port. At least the ports are fast. However, the Air is the only laptop on our list that does not come with Wi-Fi 7, or at least have an option for it. This may not be a big deal to you right now, but since this is technically a connectivity section, I think I do have to knock a point off. Typing on the Air's keyboard feels high quality and does feel precise, but it's also noticeably low travel. It's just not enjoyable to type on. On the flip side, the Air's trackpad is perfection, by far the most accurate and natural feeling. The Air's display may not be an OLED panel, but it is a very good IPS one. It gets very bright at 561 nits and also has a crazy high resolution. This just makes text and content look really crisp. In fact, due to the quality of the display and Apple's excellent font rendering, you can often see more content on this 13.6-inch screen than on a Windows laptop with a larger display. The main downside, though, of the Air's display is that its refresh rate is only 60Hz, so fast-moving content on screen may not look as smooth. When it comes to performance, it's an interesting one. The M4 base model regularly goes on sale. We've seen it frequently at $849, and we do expect it to drop further. Apple is also one of the only manufacturers where you can still buy their older models new from retailers, at least reliably find stock. The older M3 model is regularly priced below $800. I personally just bought one new for $799 with 16GB of memory and 512GB of storage. I used our own website, bestlaptop.deals, to find that deal. Anyway, to help you out, we put both of these processors on our graphs. The M4 variant is extremely powerful. It's kind of the best of everything from the processors we've mentioned. Strong CPU performance like AMD, the best integrated graphics, and the best power efficiency. If you do go for the older M3 variant, it's still a very good processor. A little better than Intel's Lunar Lake, similar in CPU multi-core performance and graphics, but it does beat it in single core, so many programs will feel a bit snappier on these MacBooks. Battery life is no longer Apple's forte though, at least not in the Airs. That's because they have smaller batteries. Please note, we don't have a MacBook Air 13 with M4 currently in the studio, we only have the 15-inch, and we recently changed our battery life tests. So we're showing you the 15-inch's results. It does have a larger screen to power, but it also has a larger battery to compensate. Expect its runtimes to be similar to the 13s. When it comes to speakers and webcam, it's a 5 for this category, the best of any of these laptops. The MacBook Air only has a fingerprint reader, no other bells and whistles, so just 1 extra point. This gives us a total of 37 points, putting the MacBook Air in first place. Look, stepping back from this crazy detailed analysis, it's very clear that there really is no overall winner. The MacBook Air is phenomenal if you're okay with macOS. The Vivobook shines if you want the fastest CPU performance in a Windows laptop. The Lenovo Yoga 7i is a great all-rounder. The Surface 13 is great for someone looking for a simple laptop with maximum portability. It's really what's right for you. And that's why I went through all the ins and outs of these laptops in such detail. And I'm sorry it took so long, but I had to. Finally, you may be able to snap up a crazy deal on a more premium laptop, so here's the ones that I'd look out for. Lenovo Slim 7X, it is a step up in quality over the Yoga 7s. It uses one of Qualcomm's most powerful processors. It has a stunning 14.5-inch OLED screen, insane battery life, all packed into a thin chassis. The Surface Laptop 7 is also very nice. It is a step up from the Surface 13 and doesn't cost that much more. HP's OmniBook Ultras are more premium versions of the OmniBook 7 and X's. Dell's XPS 13 feels more premium, looks fantastic, and is very compact, but it doesn't have a physical function row. And finally, you could get a higher configured MacBook Air. The way I'd personally shop is to regularly check the crazy deal section on our website, bestlaptop.deals, and I'd also set some custom price drop notifications on the laptops I just mentioned. With that said, this video has been an absolute monster and a massive effort from the whole team to just painstakingly test and compare every aspect of these laptops. Even multiple configurations, as you've seen, and different screen sizes. I do hope it helped you out, and if it did, please like and subscribe. I really want to hit 400,000 subscribers this year. Till next time, as I always say, go do something awesome with your day, and I will catch you later.